March 3, 1989. Moncks Corner, South Carolina. The morning began with an eerie stillness that would haunt Berkeley County for decades to come. 5-year-old Justin Lee Turner, a bright-eyed kindergartner with a mop of blonde hair, hadn't shown up for school. His neighbor, 62-year-old Martha Hayes, felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she watched the yellow school bus pull away without him. Justin was supposed to walk the short distance from his family's home on Horseshoe Road to her driveway, barely 200 yards through their quiet rural neighborhood. He never made it. Calls to Victor Turner, Justin's father, and Pamela Turner, his stepmother, confirmed the dread. Something was terribly wrong. That afternoon, when the school bus returned and Pamela stood waiting at the driveway's end, the driver shook his head. Justin hadn't been on the bus that morning. He was never at school. The sight of Pamela's face draining of color sparked the first flicker of fear in the neighborhood. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he'd wandered off to play. But hope died quickly. Inside the property 2 days later, on a misty Sunday morning, March 5, 1989, Justin's father Victor made a discovery that would shatter their rural community forever. After more than 100 volunteers had searched every inch of the property, Victor opened a storage compartment in a travel camper parked on their land. Justin lay there, small and lifeless, a clump of animal hair clutched in one tiny hand, ligature marks carved deep into his 5-year-old neck. The scene was unimaginable. When Berkeley County Sheriff's deputies entered, they found the boy who just hours before had eaten Cinnamon Crunch cereal and prepared for kindergarten. Now he was gone, his childhood extinguished in the most brutal way possible. The initial theory that Justin had wandered off and gotten lost collapsed immediately. The position of his body, hidden deliberately in a locked storage compartment, told a different story. The ligature marks on his neck screamed murder. Someone else had been there. Someone careful. Someone who left a brutal crime scene with almost no witnesses, no screams, and no trace of forced entry. For 35 years, the murder of Justin Lee Turner haunted Berkeley County, South Carolina. One innocent life extinguished too soon. One family searching for answers that never came. Until January 2024, when the truth finally emerged from decades of darkness. Before we continue this shocking story, take a second to hit subscribe and like this video. Your support helps bring these forgotten stories to light, and the algorithm gods will make sure you don't miss any future uploads. Justin's death was not just a local tragedy. It was the first domino, exposing decades of secrets in this tight-knit South Carolina community, where neighbors trusted neighbors and doors were left unlocked. In 2024, after 35 years of silence, Berkeley County investigators finally identified their suspects. They weren't unknown predators. They weren't drifters passing through rural South Carolina. They were the people Justin called Mom and Dad, the people meant to protect him, the people who had twisted parental bonds into something monstrous. What this case reveals: the persistence of a biological mother who spent 15 years fighting for justice before her death detectives who refused to let this file gather dust in the evidence through modern forensic techniques, specifically fiber analysis, giving voice to a long-silenced victim, the devastating reality that the most dangerous place for a child can be their own home. Berkeley County was changed forever. Fear tore through Moncks Corner like a cold wind. Parents who once let children ride bikes until dark now kept them within sight. Doors that had never known locks were suddenly bolted shut. The hidden darkness beneath small-town southern life was revealed, and would crack wide open when forensic evidence emerged 35 years later. The most haunting fact: Victor Turner had been interviewed extensively in the original investigation. He had discovered his own son's body within seconds of opening that camper, seconds, when deputies had searched the same space hours earlier and found nothing. He attended the funeral, mourned with family, looked Justin's biological mother in the eye at memorial services. For 35 years, he lived a normal life while his son's case file gathered dust. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. I'm always fascinated to see how far these stories travel and how they connect us across distances. Today we'll walk through the events of March 1989. We'll trace 35 years of unanswered questions, failed investigations, and devastating loss. We'll reveal the forensic breakthrough that finally brought a twisted form of justice to Justin Lee Turner. This is a story of innocence destroyed, persistence rewarded, deception unmasked, and ultimately, justice delayed but not denied. Berkeley County, South Carolina in 1989 felt like a place where time moved slower, where Southern hospitality wasn't just a phrase but a way of life. With just over 100,000 people spread across towns like Moncks Corner, Goose Creek, and Somerville, it was a community built on trust. People left doors unlocked. Kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. Everyone knew everyone at the Piggly Wiggly. This was the world Justin Lee Turner was born into, a young boy whose infectious smile and gentle nature stood out brightly against the rural South Carolina landscape. Justin Lee Turner was born in 1983 to Vivian Elaine Pace and Victor Turner. From the beginning, his life was marked by the strain of his parents' faltering marriage. Elaine and Victor had married young. She was barely 20 when they exchanged vows in January 1976. The marriage, like many rush unions, was fraught with difficulties from the start. By the mid-1980s, their relationship had deteriorated beyond repair. Behind Justin's cheerful facade lay a child longing for stability. He was caught between two worlds, weekdays with his father Victor and new stepmother Pamela at the house on Horseshoe Road, weekends with his biological mother Lane, and her new husband Russell Pace. Justin's personality, that boy had a smile that could light up a room, his maternal grandfather would later recall. He loved playing with his toy trucks, drawing pictures for his mama, and eating anything sweet, especially Cinnamon Crunch cereal. Justin was small for his age, with blond hair that fell across his forehead and bright blue eyes that held an innocence soon to be stolen. Those who knew him described a gentle child who never met a stranger, who trusted easily, perhaps too easily. The custody battle. When Victor and Elaine divorced, Victor secured primary custody of Justin. The decision devastated Elaine. She maintained contact through weekend visits and daily phone calls, determined to amend the custody arrangement. She documented everything, kept journals of her visits, saved every drawing Justin made her, recorded his voice on cassette tapes. "I will get my son back," she told her sister in late 1988. "I'm going to prove I can give him a stable home." She didn't know she was running out of time. In 1987, Victor Turner married Pamela, a quiet woman from neighboring Dorchester County. At first, family members hoped the marriage would bring stability to Justin's life. Pamela seemed eager to embrace her role as stepmother. She attended Justin's kindergarten events at Whitesville Elementary School. She was the one who waited at the bus stop each afternoon. But beneath the surface, something was wrong. Elaine noticed changes in Justin during their weekend visits. He became quieter, more withdrawn. Once, she found bruises on his arm. "What happened, baby?" she asked gently. Justin looked down. "I fell," he whispered. Elaine didn't believe him. She took photographs. She contacted Child Protective Services. But in 1988, in rural South Carolina, proving abuse was nearly impossible without concrete evidence. "If something happens to my son," Elaine told her husband Russell with tears in her eyes, "I'll never forgive myself for not fighting harder." Her worst fears will materialize on a Friday morning in March 1989. The winter of 1988 to 1989 was particularly cold in Berkeley County. Justin spent Christmas split between two homes. Christmas Eve with Elaine, Christmas Day with Victor and Pamela. In early February 1989, Elaine filed new custody papers. She had a stable job at a manufacturing plant. Russell had steady work as a mechanic. They had a modest home with a bedroom ready for Justin. The custody hearing was scheduled for late March. Justin would never make it to that hearing. On Thursday, March 2nd, 1989, Justin talked to his mother on the phone. It was their nightly ritual. "I love you, Mama," he said, his voice small through the receiver. "I love you more." Elaine replied, "I'll see you this weekend, okay? We're going to the park." "Okay, Mama." Those were the last words Elaine Pace would ever hear her son speak. The next morning, March 3rd, Justin poured himself a bowl of Cinnamon Crunch cereal, put on his sneakers, and grabbed his backpack. According to Pamela's later statement, she was in the shower when Justin left for school around 7:45 a.m. He was supposed to walk to Martha Hayes' house, just 200 yards away, where the school bus would pick him up at 8 a.m. He never arrived. The morning of Friday, March 3rd, 1989, began like any other in the rural neighborhood off Horseshoe Road. Victor Turner left for his job as a pipe welder at 6:30 a.m., kissing Pamela goodbye and telling Justin to have a good day at school. According to Pamela's initial statement to police, she had woken up around 7 a.m., started coffee, and then went to take a shower. She said she heard Justin eating breakfast in the kitchen. The familiar sound of cereal being poured, the clink of his spoon against the bowl. When she emerged from the shower around 7:50 a.m., Pamela claimed Justin was gone. She assumed he had left for school, walking to Martha Hayes' house as he did every morning. She got dressed, tidied the kitchen, and went about her day. It all seemed so normal, so routine, so innocent. But something was already terribly wrong. The last known moments, Martha Hayes, the 62-year-old neighbor who served as the unofficial bus stop supervisor, stood in her driveway at 7:55 a.m. waiting for Justin. Her own grandchildren, ages 6 and 8, waited beside her. The Turner house was visible from Martha's driveway. The path Justin walked was a straight shot through flat, open land with no trees, no ditches, nowhere to hide. I kept looking toward their house, Martha would later testify. I could see their driveway clear as day. I never saw Justin come out. At 8 a.m. sharp, the yellow school bus arrived. Martha's grandchildren climbed aboard. The driver, a man named Carl Henderson who'd driven this route for 12 years, looked at Martha questioningly. "Justin not coming today?" he asked. Martha frowned. "I haven't seen him, Carl. Maybe he's sick." The bus pulled away. Throughout the day, Justin's empty desk at Whitesville Elementary School went relatively unnoticed. It was Friday. Kids got sick. Teachers figured he'd be back Monday. But the afternoon changed everything. At 3:30 p.m., the school bus returned to Horseshoe Road. Pamela Turner stood at the end of Martha Hayes' driveway, as she did every afternoon, waiting for Justin. The bus door opened. Martha's grandchildren climbed off. No Justin. Pamela's face went pale. "Where's Justin?" she asked the driver. Carl Henderson shook his head. "Ma'am, he wasn't at school today. I figured he stayed home sick." "Sick?" "No, he went to school this morning." Martha Hayes stepped forward, her stomach dropping. "Pamela, honey, I never saw Justin this morning. He never came to my driveway for the bus." The color drained completely from Pamela's face. She turned and ran back to her house. Within minutes, she was on the phone with 911. Deputies James Gaither and Philip Mason were the first to respond to a call at 3:47 p.m. They found Pamela Turner visibly distraught, pacing in the driveway. "My son," she kept saying, "my son didn't come home. He's missing. He never got on the bus." "Ma'am," Deputy Gaither said calmly, "let's start from the beginning. When did you last see Justin?" "This morning, around 7:45. I was in the shower, and when I came out, he was gone. I thought he left for school." The deputies began a systematic search. They checked Justin's room. His bed was made. His backpack was gone. They searched the house, the yard, the nearby woods. Nothing. They called Victor Turner at work. He raced home, arriving around 5 p.m. in a state of panic. "Where's my son?" he demanded. "Where is Justin?" By nightfall, more than 30 officers and volunteers were searching the property and surrounding area. Search dogs were brought in. They tracked Justin sent from his house to the driveway, and then nothing. The trail went cold. "It's like he vanished into thin air," Deputy Mason told his partner. As darkness fell on March 3rd, 1989, 5-year-old Justin Turner had been missing for nearly 12 hours. Saturday, March 4th, brought more than 50 volunteers. The community rallied. Church groups brought food. Neighbors formed search lines and walked through fields and forests. Elaine Pace arrived at the Turner property at dawn, her face streaked with tears. "Where's my baby?" she screamed at Victor. "What happened to my son?" Victor, haggard and pale, could only shake his head. "I don't know, Elaine. I swear to God, I don't know." Investigators began to consider darker possibilities. Could this be a parental abduction? Elaine and Victor's custody battle was well documented. Could Elaine have orchestrated this? But Elaine and Russell Pace had ironclad alibis. Both were at work Friday morning, confirmed by multiple witnesses and time cards. They were eliminated as suspects almost immediately. By Saturday evening, hope was fading. If Justin had wandered off, they would have found him by now. The temperatures Friday night had dipped into the low 40s, survivable but concerning for a small child. "We're running out of time," Sheriff William Garrett told his deputies. Sunday morning brought more than 100 searchers. The property was divided into grids. Every structure was searched again: the main house, a separate garage, a storage shed, and a travel camper parked near the tree line. That camper had been searched on Friday evening by Deputy Philip Mason. He had opened the storage compartments, checked the interior, found nothing. But at 9:17 a.m. on Sunday morning, Victor Turner approached the camper again. "I'm going to check one more time," he told a deputy. He walked to the rear of the camper and opened the external storage compartment, a space about 3 feet wide by 2 feet deep, used for camping supplies. What happened next would raise questions for 35 years. "Something's in there," Victor screamed. "Oh, God! Oh, God! Everybody stand back." Deputies rushed over. Inside the storage compartment, folded into an impossibly small space, was Justin Lee Turner. His small body was cold to the touch. His blond hair was matted. Around his neck were deep ligature marks. In one hand, he clutched a clump of dark animal hair. The scene made no sense. This compartment had been searched multiple times. Multiple people had looked in this exact space and found nothing. Yet here was Justin, obviously dead for some time, hidden in a locked compartment that required a specific key, a key only the Turner family possessed. The immediate thought among first responders was, murder-suicide interrupted. Perhaps Victor or Pamela had planned to kill themselves after killing Justin. Perhaps the discovery of the body had prevented that final step. But that theory fell apart within hours. The autopsy revealed Justin had been strangled, ligature strangulation, most likely with some kind of cord or leash. Time of death was estimated between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Friday, March 3rd. But there was something else. Something that would become plot twist number 1. Justin's body was unnaturally cold, far colder than it should have been given the mild temperatures. Dr. Sandra Conradi, the medical examiner, made a startling observation in her report. The victim's core body temperature and the condition of the tissue suggest possible refrigeration post-mortem. In other words, Justin might have been stored in a freezer or refrigerator for hours, possibly days, before being placed in the camper. This changed everything. If Justin had been refrigerated, it meant the killer had time to plan. The disposal of the killer had access to a freezer large enough to hold a child's body. The killer was someone in the Turner household. Investigators obtained a warrant and seized a large chest freezer from the Turner property. They also took a storage shed that contained another smaller freezer. Forensic teams examined both appliances. They found nothing definitive, no blood, no tissue, no clear evidence. But the theory persisted. Think about the timeline. Justin was last seen Friday morning around 7:45 a.m. He died sometime Friday. Between 10 a.m. and 3 o'clock p.m. the camper was searched Friday evening. Nothing found Justin's body appeared in the camper by Sunday morning. How could a body appear in a space that had already been searched? The only logical answer: someone placed it there after the initial search. And if the body had been refrigerated, it would explain the temperature inconsistency. The crime scene itself offered frustratingly few clues. Justin had been strangled with some kind of cord or rope that left distinctive marks. The weapon was never found. No shell casings, no fingerprints, aside from family members, no witnesses. But there were some critical pieces. The animal hair, clutched in Justin's hand, was a clump of dark hair consistent with dog fur. The Turners owned a black Labrador mix named Duke. That's Justin's clothing. His clothes showed no signs of outdoor debris. No dirt, no leaves, no grass stains. This suggested he had been carried from indoors directly to the camper. The stomach contents. Justin had partially digested cereal in his stomach, confirming he died within hours of eating breakfast, and no signs of struggle in the house. Despite a thorough search, investigators found no blood, no signs of violence, no disruptive furniture. The killer had been careful, unnervingly careful. Moncks Corner, a town known for its southern charm and tight-knit community, suddenly felt different. Betty Crawford, who ran the local diner, told a reporter, "We used to say this was the kind of place where you could leave your door unlocked and sleep sound. Not anymore. Not after this. Somebody in this community killed that little boy, and they're still walking around free." Parents kept their children closer. Doors that had never known locks were suddenly bolted. The local hardware store sold out of deadbolts within days. The unspoken question lingered. Was the killer someone they saw every day at the grocery store, at church, at the gas station? The answer was yes, but it would take 35 years to prove it. Red herring number 1. The biological mother. The first and most obvious suspect was Elaine Pace. She and Victor had been locked in a bitter custody battle. She had documentation of suspected abuse. She had everything to gain from Justin's disappearance. Investigators grilled her for hours. "Mrs. Pace, where were you Friday morning between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m.? "I was at work," Elaine insisted through tears. "I was at the Westinghouse plant. I clocked in at 7 a.m. and didn't leave until 4:30 p.m. "You can check. Please check. Just find my son." They did check. Elaine's alibi was bulletproof, confirmed by time cards, co-workers, security footage. She was eliminated as a suspect within 48 hours. But the damage was done. Some community members would always wonder if she had somehow orchestrated Justin's death from a distance. Red herring number 2, the mysterious witness. In January 1991, nearly 2 years after Justin's death, a new lead emerged. A 6-year-old boy named Tyler Morrison came forward with a stunning claim. He had seen Justin being taken. According to Tyler, he was playing his yard Friday morning when he saw a scary man grab Justin and put him in a big white truck. The claim sent investigators down a rabbit hole for months. They tracked down every white truck owner in a 50-mile radius. They showed Tyler photo lineups. They brought in forensic psychologists to interview him. But eventually, the truth emerged. Tyler had overheard adults discussing theories about Justin's disappearance, and his 6-year-old mind had constructed a false memory. He's imagining certain things that might have happened just because of listening to other people say those things. Dr. Michael Brennan, a child psychologist, explained, "This is what it appears to be." The white truck theory was abandoned, and investigators were back to square one. Red herring number 3, the serial killer theory. Then came the theory that would haunt the case for decades and would resurface dramatically in 2024. Between 1989 and 1992, 3 other children in the broader low-country region of South Carolina went missing under mysterious circumstances. None were ever found. Some investigators began to wonder, was a serial predator operating in rural South Carolina? The speculation intensified when profiles of known serial killers active in the Southeast during that period were examined. One name kept appearing, Richard Mark Evenitz. Evenitz was a serial killer who abducted and murdered 3 girls in Virginia in the 1990s. He had military connections to South Carolina. He had visited the region multiple times. Could he have killed Justin Turner? Law enforcement explored the connection. They compared timelines, reviewed Evenitz's known whereabouts, analyzed his methods. But the evidence didn't fit. Evenitz typically targeted teenage girls, not 5-year-old boys. His modus operandi involved abduction from public spaces, not from homes. And most critically, there was no physical evidence linking him to Berkeley County in March 1989. The serial killer theory, while tantalizing, was eventually dismissed as speculative. Still, the name Richard Mark Evenitz would come back to haunt this case 35 years later. One by one, the leads dried up, the investigation stalled. The files on Justin Lee Turner were closed and consigned to cardboard boxes in the Berkeley County Sheriff's evidence room. For the investigators who worked the case, the unsolved murder became a heavy burden, a constant reminder of failure. Sheriff William Garrett, who retired in 1995, would later say, "Not a day went by when I didn't think about that little boy. Not a single day." Years passed. The community slowly adapted to its new reality. Justin's murder became a hushed story, a local legend. Children grew up hearing about the boy who disappeared. Parents use it as a cautionary tale. Don't talk to strangers. Don't wander off. For Justin's biological mother, however, the wound remained open and bleeding. Elaine Pace refused to let the case be forgotten. She held memorial services every March 3rd. She spoke to any reporter who would listen. She kept a bulletin board in her living room covered with photos of Justin, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes. Justice for Justin became her life's mission. She filed Freedom of Information requests, demanding updates from the sheriff's office. She hired private investigators with money she didn't have. She wrote letters to state legislators, to the governor, to anyone who might listen. Her husband, Russell, supported her unwaveringly. "I promised her I would never stop fighting," he later said. "Even after she's gone, I won't stop." That promise would be tested sooner than he knew. By the early 2000s, Berkeley County was a different place. The population had grown. New developments had replaced farmland. The original investigators had retired or passed away. New technologies offered new possibilities. DNA analysis, advanced fiber analysis, digital forensics. But Justin's case remained cold. There was no DNA evidence. The physical evidence had been collected. Fibers, the animal hair, Justin's clothing, sat in an evidence locker untouched. In November 2004, after 15 years of fighting for her son, Elaine Pace died of breast cancer. She was 52 years old. At her funeral, she was buried holding a photograph of Justin and a stuffed bear he had given her for Mother's Day 1988. Russell Pace stood at her grave and made a vow. "I will finish this for you. I promise." But as the years continued to pass, 2005, 2010, 2015, it seemed justice would never come. In 2020, Berkeley County Sheriff Dwayne Lewis established a dedicated cold case unit. The unit consisted of one full-time investigator, Detective Sarah Mitchell, and two volunteer retired investigators, Jack Romano and Dennis Webb. Their mission was simple: re-examine every unsolved homicide in Berkeley County history using modern forensic techniques. "Time changes everything," Detective Mitchell often said. People who were afraid to talk in 1989 might be willing to talk now. Evidence that couldn't be analyzed back then can be analyzed today. We just have to look with fresh eyes. The cold case unit started with the oldest cases and worked forward. They solved 3 homicides in their first year. Cases from the 1970s and 1980s where DNA evidence had finally identified killers. In early 2021, they turned their attention to the Justin Turner case. Detective Mitchell pulled the dusty boxes from storage and spread everything out in the conference room. Crime scene photos, witness statements, autopsy reports, physical evidence bags. For weeks, she and her team reviewed every page, looking for anything that might have been missed. And then they found it. A hairline fracture in the investigation that had gone unnoticed for 35 years. Buried in the original files was something curious. Deputy Philip Mason's polygraph results from 1989. Mason had been the first deputy to search the camper on Friday evening. He had sworn under oath that he thoroughly checked every compartment and found nothing, but his polygraph showed deception when asked, "Did you properly search that camper?" At the time, it was dismissed. Maybe Mason was nervous. Maybe he felt guilty for missing something. But Detective Mitchell saw it differently. If Mason properly searched that camper and found nothing, she reasoned, then Justin's body was placed there later, which means the killer had access to the locked camper between Friday evening and Sunday morning. Who had keys to that camper? Only Victor and Pamela Turner. But Detective Mitchell needed more than theories. She needed evidence. She turned to the physical evidence that had been sitting in storage for 32 years. The fibers. In 1989, fiber analysis was rudimentary. Fibers could be identified by type, but linking them definitively to a specific source was nearly impossible. By 2021, fiber analysis had advanced dramatically. Detective Mitchell sent the fibers to the FBI's forensic laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. The samples included fibers found in the ligature marks on Justin's neck fibers, found on Justin's clothing fibers, collected from various locations in the Turner home. For months, forensic experts analyzed the samples using electron microscopy and chemical analysis. In December 2021, the results came back. The fibers from Justin's neck wounds matched fibers from a dog leash found in the Turner home. Not just similar, matched. Same material, same dye lot, same microscopic characteristics. This was the breakthrough they needed. Victor and Pamela Turner had moved away from Berkeley County in the early 1990s, changing their names and starting over. Pamela now went by Megan. They had relocated to Lawrence County, about 200 miles north, where they lived quiet lives. In 35 years, they had never contacted the sheriff's office, never asked about updates, never expressed interest in finding Justin's killer. This silence was damning. In March 2022, Detective Mitchell and her team traveled to Lawrence County to interview the Turners. They were now in their 60s, Victor with gray hair and a weathered face, Megan, formerly Pamela, thin and nervous. "We'd like to talk to you about Justin," Detective Mitchell said. Victor's face went pale. That was a long time ago. "Not for Justin's family," Detective Mitchell replied. "For them, it's every day." The interview lasted 3 hours. Victor and Megan stuck to their story from 1989. Justin left for school, never arrived. They had no idea what happened, but there were inconsistencies. Small details that didn't match previous statements. Nervous glances between husband and wife. "Did you own a dog back in 1989? Detective Mitchell asked. "Yes," Megan answered quietly. "Duke, a black lab mix." "What happened to Duke's leash?" Megan looked confused. I don't remember." "Why?" Detective Mitchell leaned forward. "Because fibers from a leash found in your home match fibers found in the ligature marks on Justin's neck." The room went silent. Over the next year, Detective Mitchell built a comprehensive case. She re-interviewed witnesses, some of whom were now more willing to talk. A neighbor came forward with disturbing information. She had seen Pamela and Justin arguing loudly the morning he disappeared. She was screaming at him about something, the neighbor said. "I almost called someone, but then it got quiet." Another witness revealed that Pamela had given conflicting information about her whereabouts that Friday. She initially claimed to be home all morning, but phone records showed she made calls from other locations. Most damningly, forensic analysis revealed something new. The dog leash had been cleaned extensively, scrubbed with bleach, sometime after Justin's death, but before it was collected as evidence. Why would someone bleach a dog leash unless they were trying to hide something? In August 2023, Detective Mitchell received an unexpected phone call. It was from a woman named Linda Grayson, Victor Turner's sister. She had cut ties with her brother decades ago, but had been following the renewed investigation in the news. "I need to tell you something," Linda said, her voice shaking. "Something I should have told police 35 years ago." Linda revealed that in April 1989, about a month after Justin's death, Victor had come to her house late at night, drunk and emotional. He was crying, Linda recalled. He said, "She killed my boy. She killed him, and I helped cover it up." Linda had assumed he was drunk and rambling. She didn't report it. She tried to forget it, but it had haunted her for 35 years. According to Linda, Victor admitted that Pamela had lost control with Justin that Friday morning. They had argued about Justin going to see his mother that weekend. Pamela was jealous, possessive. She didn't mean to kill him. Victor had slurred through tears. "But she did, and then I helped hide him." Victor told Linda that after Pamela strangled Justin with Duke's leash, they panicked. Victor wrapped the body in plastic and hid it in their chest freezer in the garage. They kept Justin there for nearly 48 hours, trying to figure out what to do. On Saturday night, after the initial search efforts had wound down, Victor moved Justin's body from the freezer to the camper's storage compartment. It was a calculated gamble. The camper had already been searched. No one would look there again. And it worked, until Victor himself discovered the body Sunday morning. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why Justin's body was so cold, refrigeration. Why the body wasn't in the camper during the first search. It hadn't been placed there yet. Why Victor found the body within seconds. He knew exactly where it was. Why the dog leash had been bleached to destroy evidence. Why the Turners failed their polygraphs. They were lying. Detective Mitchell had her case. On January 9, 2024, 34 years, 10 months, and 6 days after Justin Turner's death, Berkeley County Sheriff's deputies, accompanied by Lawrence County authorities, arrested Victor Turner and Megan Turner, formerly Pamela. Both were charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. The arrests made national news. Headline screamed, "Cold case solved after 35 years, and parents arrested in 1989 death of 5-year-old son." Victor and Megan appeared in Berkeley County Magistrate Court on January 12, 2024. Victor looked defiant, his jaw clenched. Megan appeared terrified, barely audible when asked to confirm her name. District Attorney Rebecca Thornton outlined the case. The evidence shows that on March 3, 1989, Megan Turner, then known as Pamela Turner, strangled 5-year-old Justin Turner to death using a dog leash in their home. Victor Turner then helped conceal the crime by storing the body in a freezer and later moving it to a camper on their property, where he staged his discovery. The judge set bond at $50,000 each, a relatively low amount that shocked the prosecution and Justin's family. Both Victor and Megan posted bond within days and were released pending trial. In February 2024, just weeks after the arrests, the defense team dropped a bombshell that would rock the case to its core. Defense attorneys Marcus Randall and Patricia Chin filed a motion to dismiss all charges, presenting a new theory that stunned everyone involved. Richard Mark Evenitz might have killed Justin Turner. In their 47-page motion, the defense presented newly discovered evidence. Richard Mark Evenitz had been stationed at nearby Naval Weapons Station Charleston in 1988-1989 cell tower records, recently obtained. Showed a phone registered Evenitz ping towers near Moncks Corner. In early March 1989, Evenitz had a documented history of entering homes through unlocked doors. The dog hair found in Justin's hand didn't match Duke's DNA. It came from a different dog breed entirely. Ladies and gentlemen, defense attorney Randall addressed the media outside the courthouse. What we have here is a rush to judgment. The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office is so desperate to close this case that they've arrested innocent people while ignoring evidence pointing to a serial killer. The motion included affidavits from forensic experts questioning the fiber analysis. They argued that the dog leash found in the Turner home couldn't be definitively proven to be the murder weapon. Most significantly, they presented documentation showing that Richard Mark Evenitz had confessed to murders he initially denied. Before his death in 2002, suicide during a police standoff, Evenitz had told psychologists, "There are others, some I can't even remember." South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. District Attorney Thornton was livid. "This is a desperate attempt by the defense to create reasonable doubt where none exists," she told reporters. Richard Mark Evenitz is a convenient scapegoat because he's dead and can't defend himself. Yes, he was a monster, but he didn't kill Justin Turner. The prosecution filed their own response, arguing Evenitz's confession was vague and unverified. His known victims were all teenage girls, not 5-year-old boys. Modus operandi didn't match Justin's case. Most critically, Evenitz couldn't have moved Justin's body from the freezer to camper. He would have had no access to the Turner property. The evidence against Victor and Megan Turner is overwhelming, Thornton argued. Fiber evidence, witness testimony, suspicious behavior, the refrigeration of the body, the staged discovery. These are not the actions of a serial killer passing through. These are the actions of guilty parents trying to cover up a crime. In April 2024, Judge Harold Briggs heard arguments on the defense's motion to dismiss. After 3 days of hearings, he issued his ruling. While the defense has raised questions about Richard Mark Evenitz's potential involvement, these questions do not rise to the level of exculpatory evidence that would warrant dismissal. The motion is denied. This case will proceed to trial. The defense immediately indicated they would use the Evenitz theory at trial, attempting to create reasonable doubt in the jury's mind. The trial of Victor Turner and Megan Turner began in September 2024 at the Berkeley County Courthouse in Moncks Corner. The courthouse saw an influx of media and spectators, a stark contrast to the quiet town. District Attorney Rebecca Thornton led the prosecution with Assistant DA Michael Chun. They argued a powerful 3-pronged motive: jealousy, Megan was jealous of Justin's relationship with his biological mother and the impending custody change control. Victor wanted to maintain custody, and child support advantages rage. Megan had a history of losing her temper with Justin, which escalated on March 3, 1989. The prosecution presented 37 witnesses over 3 weeks. Forensic expert Dr. James Holland testified about the fiber evidence. The fibers found in the ligature marks on Justin Turner's neck are microscopically and chemically identical to fibers from the dog leash found in the Turner home. The probability of these fibers coming from a different source is less than 1 in 10 million. Victor's sister Linda Grayson took the stand, her voice steady but quiet. He told me Pamela killed Justin. He said he helped cover it up. Those were his exact words. Neighbor Patricia Morrison testified. I heard shouting that morning. Pamela was screaming at Justin. I've never forgotten it because a few hours later, he was missing. As witnesses testified, Megan sat quietly at the defense table, occasionally dabbing her eyes with tissue. But Victor's demeanor was different. He grew increasingly agitated. When Linda took the stand and recounted his confession, Victor suddenly stood up, his chair scraping loudly. She's lying, he shouted. I never said that. She's making it up. Judge Briggs pounded his gavel. Mr. Turner, sit down immediately or I will have you removed from this courtroom. Deputies had to physically guide Victor back to his seat. His outburst would be replayed on news broadcasts across the country. Defense attorney Marcus Randall built their case around reasonable doubt. He called forensic expert Dr. Patricia Wells, who testified. While the fibers are similar, fiber analysis is not as definitive as DNA. There's room for error, especially with 35-year-old evidence. He presented the Richard Mark Evenitz theory in detail, showing maps of Evenitz movements, timelines of his known crimes, and the mysterious dog hair that didn't match Duke. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Randall addressed them during his closing. All the prosecution has shown is that fibers that might have come from a leash that might have been used in Justin's death were found in a home where Justin lived. That's not proof. That's speculation. Meanwhile, there's credible evidence suggesting a serial killer was in the area. Can you convict 2 people of murder when there's another viable suspect? Against their attorney's advice, both Victor and Megan took the stand. Megan went first. She was barely audible, forcing the judge to repeatedly ask her to speak up. Did you kill Justin Turner? Thornton asked directly. No, Megan whispered. I love that boy. Then why did you fail a polygraph test in 1989? I was scared. I was young. I didn't understand what was happening. Why did you bleach the dog leash? I didn't. I never touched that leash. Under cross-examination, Megan broke down crying, unable to answer many questions coherently. Victor's testimony was more combative. Mr. Turner, Thornton asked, did you tell your sister Linda that Pamela killed Justin and you helped cover it up? Never. Victor said firmly. So your sister is lying? Yes, she's lying. We haven't spoken in years. She's bitter. Why did you find Justin's body within seconds of opening that camper when multiple deputies had searched it and found nothing? Victor's face flushed red. I guess I looked more carefully. Or you knew exactly where to look because you put him there. Objection, Randall shouted, but the damage was done. On October 18, 2024, after 4 days of deliberation, the jury returned with its verdict. The courtroom was packed. Every seat was taken. Russell Pace, now 72 years old, sat in the front row, clutching a photo of his late wife Elaine and Justin. The foreman stood. In the case of the state of South Carolina versus Megan Turner, we find the defendant guilty of murder. A gasp went through the gallery. In the case of the state of South Carolina versus Victor Turner, we find the defendant guilty of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Russell Pace collapsed into the arms of his daughter, sobbing. 35 years of waiting, of fighting, of hoping. It was finally over. At their sentencing hearing in November 2024, both defendants were given the opportunity to speak. Megan, in tears, said, I didn't do this. I love Justin. I'm innocent. Victor launched into a 20-minute rant, painting himself as a victim of a conspiracy involving jealous family members incompetent investigators, and an overzealous prosecutor. "This is a travesty," he shouted. "I will appeal this. I will fight this until my dying breath." Then Russell Pace spoke, his voice heavy with grief that had lasted 35 years. "I made a promise to my wife Elaine before she died," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I promised her I would get justice for our boy. It took 35 years, but today that promise is fulfilled." He looked directly at Victor and Megan. "You stole Justin's future. You stole Elaine's peace. You stole 35 years from all of us. I hope you spend the rest of your lives thinking about what you did to that innocent child." Amy Parsons, Justin's cousin who fought tirelessly for justice, also spoke. "For 35 years, you enjoyed your freedom. You lived your lives while Justin lay in cemetery, and his mother died without answers. That ends today." Judge Harold Briggs imposed a maximum sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole for both Victor and Megan Turner. As the judge spoke, Victor continuously interrupted, accusing the judge of bias, the prosecutors of corruption, the jury of stupidity. Judge Briggs fixed him with a cold stare. "Mr. Turner, if you say one more word, I will have you gagged and restrained. Do you understand?" For the first time, Victor fell silent. The courtroom erupted in applause, immediately gavelled down by the judge, but the message was clear. Justice had been served. As of this recording in late 2024, both Victor and Megan Turner have filed appeals. Victor's appeal focuses on the admission of his sister's testimony, which he claims was hearsay. Megan's appeal centers on the fiber evidence, arguing it was too degraded to be reliable. Legal experts give the appeals little chance of success. For Russell Pace and Justin's extended family, the convictions brought a bittersweet closure. "I wish Elaine could have been here to see this," Russell said after the verdict. "She fought so hard for so many years. She never gave up. This is her victory as much as Justin's." Amy Parsons established a foundation in Justin's name to support families of missing children and to fund cold case investigations. Berkeley County in 2024 is vastly different from the Berkeley County of 1989. The population has grown. Rural areas have given way to suburban developments. The old neighborhood on Horseshoe Road barely exists anymore. But the memory of Justin Lee Turner remains. Whitesville Elementary School has a memorial garden in Justin's honor. Every year on March 3rd, students place flowers there. The case became a study for cold case units nationwide, demonstrating how modern forensics and persistent investigation can crack seemingly impossible cases. Detective Sarah Mitchell received national recognition for her work. "Justin's case taught me that you can never give up," she said. "Even after 35 years, even when everyone says it's hopeless, justice can still be found." For Justin Lee Turner, a bright-eyed 5-year-old who loved Cinnamon Crunch cereal and drawing pictures for his mama, his dreams of growing up, going to first grade, playing baseball, all were tragically stolen. But his story, once a haunting mystery, now has an answer. The truth, buried for 35 years, finally came to light. The legal machinery has finished its work. The file can be closed. The ghost of Justin Lee Turner and his mother Elaine Pace, who fought until her last breath, can finally rest. Their memory, sustained by a loving family and a community forever changed, serves as a poignant reminder. Justice, however delayed, can still be found. Thanks for being here and listening to Justin's story. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss when we shine a light on the forgotten cases. Stay safe, hold your loved ones close, and remember, sometimes justice takes decades, but it's worth the wait. This is Untold Cold Case Files, and we'll see you in the next one.